designing these interesting and compelling wall treatments. You see them in airports, you see them in courthouses, you see them in multi-million-dollar homes. In order for us to help everyone have an amazing wall panel, we've decided to open up the design capabilities of the Waves add-in to you. This is a button that takes what is essentially a very complex procedure and allows you to simply set up some parameters, as I'm going to show you, and select a boundary geometry, and just like that, you can create very compelling patterns and information. You don't need to know anything about 5 axes, you don't need to know anything about 3 axes. You just push the button, populate the parameters, and off you go. To give you an idea, we're going to be using a simple and commercially available round ball end mill. Right? This is a simple ball end, and we're going to be cutting at a depth of 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to go ahead and show you what that simulation looks like. I will remind you that, for example, this simulation is only 2D toolpaths. There is absolutely nothing that is 3D in here. We're achieving this interesting and compelling looking pattern by simply using rough or finish on the geometries that were created by the Mac. And I'm sure you'd agree with me, this looks really, really interesting. Understanding this is nothing but a bunch of lines and arcs that happen to be machined with a ball end. Right? Now, of course, the interesting aspect of the macro is that these settings that we have here can be stored, and you can retrieve them for different purposes. So those settings I called sample 1, but I can drop the list and go to sample 2, and this is going to give me a completely different look. Likewise, small changes to the settings can give you a great difference in what you're looking at. Now, of course, the purpose of this video is not to teach you how to use the add-in. It's just to show you the capabilities that are behind it. Once again, same add-in created the same geometry. We're going to get a completely different end result. I'm going to pause it and get to. You probably agree with me. This is a very interesting looking pattern and design. Actual 3D information, which is creating waves in the z-axis. Just go ahead and select the parameters just like I did before. This is the longitude of the wave, the amplitude of the wave, the top and the bottom of the wave, any offsets between the different sections of the wave. And I can go ahead and click OK, and I can go ahead and select a geometry, and just like that, I can generate 3D polylines. These 3D polylines or splines can then be machined with the cut spline or polyline button. I'm going to be cutting 1/4 of an inch. So now, just like before, we're going to go ahead and run the simulation. And this is the pattern that I would get by running that particular set of settings. Now, let me go ahead and backtrack it. I'm going to close it. And I'm going to undo and undo. And this time, I'll show you the exact same set of settings, but with a distance between waves of, say, 3/4 of an inch, can give me a completely different visual result. Once again, I'm going to apply that commercially available cutter, which is the ball end tool. And this is going to give us a really interesting application. There it is. Let's look at the simulation. There you have it. Now look, both of the buttons, right, create the geometry for you. I'm pretty sure that if you take a look at it, you'll agree that this is an interesting pattern. And once again, I was able to achieve it without having to know available to you. Or fabric, as well as the Z and final button geometry already, like these lines that I'm creating right now. And I am literally ready It is basically this third and final button does not. It is basically assuming that there is geometry already on the screen that you created. So, as I was telling you, likewise, you'll be able to set up the parameters for the wave, the top, the bottom, amplitude, and longitude. Even from the top polygon, if it's geometry, parameters for the waves came once again up to the complex geometries, and the parameters for the waves came from the parameters that were set up here. Finally, once again, applying that commercially available cutter, maybe to a depth of 1/8 of an inch, will render an interesting looking panel. So the possibilities are truly interesting. Very interesting. This is surveyor. You'll be able to, in a variety of cooling a survey. Right now, use a car in this first side of where it's comprehensive. There is, of course, out of really want to work in a sense. You can ramp. It's also the pickup and the neck cavity of previous machine. Once again, this was something that looks very complex. This is reason number 7. Number 8, to utility calculating is very simple to apply. For example, at my tool direction, and I can go ahead and apply sawing. As with anything else, it can be partial or elemental. We can even saw internal arcs. It can be manual or it can be automatic Z, depending on whether we actually apply geometry Z levels. But here's the interesting thing. The element or open or closed perimeter, and it will cut on the line, so the center of the rotation of the blade will stop at the end. Then we can cut past it, our safety, the ability to, by simply fouling, which I will explain in a minute, and set up by simply cuts, saying that now I have the ability to go and see what we have accomplished. Is all taken into which let me go ahead and undo that. Easy to read that. We also have the ability. Let me show you what. Let's say perhaps the level. Then I say, hold on, bigger or smaller feature that now octagon. For those of you that actually have reasons 3D for example, from a website, STL is a very popular format for the developers of those files because it's not easy to change. And so when they share that file with you, they're kind of protected you and stamp you. It's important. So the other is the size of the piece of wood that I need to order from the mill, and this is where the STL utilities begin to help us. Drops on the screen, it's convenient. Those of you like even for simple, you could hunting for individual specific be able to, so that for those smaller meaning has what this that particular drawing inserted into that circle.